The
following section might shock you. You will be thinking, how could such a system be contemplated for a democracy, let alone be implemented, and why is it deliberately deceptive? Everything in this brief summary is backed up and will be presented. The European Council, made up of 27 Prime Ministers from the EU countries. The President of the EU will be decided on in private/secret negotiations instead of being democratically elected. France's President Sarkozy has informally proposed Tony Blair as the first EU President, which could last up to 5 years. The self-amending Article 48 of the Lisbon Treaty gives these 27 EU Prime Ministers the right to amend all treaties on their own. The Commission proposes laws and is made up of unelected civil servants. The Commission President will be chosen by the 27 people on the EU Council. The other members will be selected by the Commission President on the basis of suggestions from governments, from which the unelected Commission President can choose whoever he likes. The European Parliament cannot decide on and elect a name of their own. Every 15 years the selected Irish Commissioner would be removed for a period of 5 years. The Council of Ministers, made up of ordinary ministers, ministers of agriculture, etc. In the EU not all laws are voted on. If one is pushed to a vote, this group will decide by qualified majority voting, in which 4 of the largest countries could dominate. They decide mostly from behind closed doors, and the documents from the legislative meetings are not even available for members of the EU Parliament. The EU Parliament. Our elected MEPs have the least amount of power. They can only make suggestions. Even their suggestion powers are limited. They are not allowed to suggest a new law, only to make suggestions for amendments of a draft law, which comes down to them. The non-elected members of the Commission decide whether these suggestions have a chance or not. Ireland and other small countries will lose more MEP seats as new members join, as expected from the Balkans. The working groups. There are over 3,000 working groups made up of unknown members. These working groups hold a tremendous amount of power. In practice, 85% of all European laws are decided in secret working groups under the Council and the Commission. MPs, MEPs and the public have no access that would enable them to follow this legislative process. The Lisbon Treaty will hand over even more areas of power to the EU, and if there is any conflict between EU law and our national law, EU law will prevail, making the Irish Constitution invalid.
So, the core in the Lisbon Treaty, that's to move decisions away from the smaller member states to the bigger member states, but also from the voters to the civil servants, because 85% of all laws in Brussels, 85%, they are decided by civil servants in 300 secret working groups in the Council, prepared by 3,000 other secret working groups in the Commission. As a member of Parliament, I have no access to the documents. I have no access to what they are doing.
The Council is actually a number of bodies. You have the Council of Presidents and Prime Ministers. So, okay, we elected Bertie Ahern. Well, in fact, 12,000 people in North Dublin elect Bertie Ahern. His party picks him, and he becomes the head of the Prime Minister, or the Taoiseach, and then he goes over to Europe and starts with 26 other people ruling 500 million people.
Yeah.
Which, on 12,000 votes. So, I mean, that's the kind of tenuous link to a mandate that he has.
But under the new arrangements after Lisbon, there'll be a permanent chair for 2.5 years, renewable once, which means up to 5 years. So you're going to have a permanent president, and that's another example of where it's been made a kind of state, because there's no other international meeting of prime minister or president where they have a permanent chair for up to 5